I'm here to do another Bible study with you. I hope everything's been going well. Things are going really well for me. Chloe and I still planning the wedding. We're still hoping that everything will go well and we'll be able to do that in August. I have recently started doing a couple of things for the real estate company I plan on working for, like office administration stuff. And so I'm keeping busy. I hope you're keeping busy too. I hope that you're keeping those grades up. I know it's difficult because you're not in your usual setting, but I really hope that you're focusing on your studies and that you're still finishing the year strong. This week, I have a little bit of a challenge for you. I know that at this point in routines, things can kind of become stagnant and things can kind of come to a halt and you run out of ideas. So, my challenge for you this week to mix things up is to try to organize your whole home together. So, get all the people in your home together and to play a game together. So, one idea would be the reverse charades game that we've done before, where one person has their back turned to the board and everyone else is trying to get them to guess it by acting it out. We had a lot of fun with that. You could teach your family the signs game that we played or the contagion game that we played, anything like that. Just try to get everyone within your home to play a game with each other and really spear that and try to build those relationships. But today for our Bible study, we're going to bounce around a little bit. It's going to all be within the book of John, so you don't have to find too much. But I want you to keep your Bibles with you because we're going to bounce around enough to where it'll be important to have it nearby. So go ahead and open up to John. We're going to start in chapter 21 and read verses 1 through 19. And then we're going to bounce around a little bit after that. So go ahead and read John chapter 21, verses 1 through 19. Perfect. Welcome back. So what we're going to focus on a little bit here is today's focus is Peter. As I've talked about before, I understand Peter. I get Peter. He's my guy. And this is one of those situations where he acts the most like himself that we've seen and the most consistent to himself. So to set the stage for you a little bit, at this moment, Jesus has already resurrected after the crucifixion. He's revealed himself to the disciples a couple of times, and but he has left them already. And so the disciples are kind of down, like they're still somewhat in hiding, but not as much. And Peter just says, "You know what? I'm going to go fishing." And what I love about this is that people jumped right on with him. They're like, "Yeah, we'll go with you." And at this point, it's very similar to kind of what's going on right now. Is they'd rather be doing anything else. We need to do something to get our mind off what's going on. And a lot of these disciples used to be fishermen. And so they just jump in the boat and they go. And they go out fishing and they don't catch anything, which I don't know about you guys. I don't know how many of you have actually gone fishing, but this is something that I'm very familiar with, fishing and then not catching anything. And what's really great about it is who knows how many hours they were out there, but they're not having any luck. And then out of nowhere, some guy that ends up being Jesus, but we don't know that at that point, just starts yelling, "Hey, did you guys catch anything?" Which, as a fisherman, if you haven't caught anything, is the most embarrassing thing, because you have to be like, "Well, no, not yet. They don't seem to be biting right now. I'm probably going to switch up my baits. Like you're trying pretty much anything else to not seem to not get too embarrassed that you haven't caught anything. But Dave says they fished like through the night and they hadn't caught anything. And so this dude just kind of rubs it in. Like, do you guys catch anything? And they're like, no. And they're like, well, just cast it to the other side. Yeah, like I haven't tried that already, you know? Like I can imagine the disciples just getting so frustrated with this guy just barking at them from the shore. And when they cast it to the other side, it says that they caught a surplus that they couldn't, so much fish, they couldn't actually pull it onto the boat. And that's in the moment that they realize that maybe this dude was someone different, right? And what I love about John, who wrote this account, and like he does with everything else, he points out that he was the one that figured it out. So previously, he talks about how he was the one that was reclined next to Jesus, or he was the one that beat Peter in the foot race to the tomb. And in this case, he mentions that he was the one that was like, "Oh no, it's Jesus." And then Peter has the most Peter response, which is all or nothing. He um, throws on his outer garments and jumps into the water. Now, what's funny about that is that they've been fishing long enough to where Peter was getting worked up and he just took off his outer garments and only had his undergarments on. I like to consider it like he just took his shirt off while he was fishing and was just trying to like do any sort of manual labor to get his mind off things. But he puts on his clothes to jump into the water, which is really funny to me. Just the thought that goes in Peter's head is, oh, it's Jesus. I just want to go hang out with him. And so he leaves the guys who haven't finished pulling the fish in and swims to shore to be with Jesus. And it's just the most Peter response to jump head first. And what it's really great is that he doesn't just jump in the water. Like John uses the language that he throws himself into the water, which is really the most Peter, is to not, like when we were talking about Jesus washing the disciples' feet, he said, well, if this is what I need, then not just my feet, give me all of it. Peter has to go full bore. And so he throws himself into the sea to swim to Jesus. And it's that kind of passion that I want, to the point to where I want to be like, I want all of it. I want to not always make what seems like the right decision to everyone else, but I know in my heart is what I need to do for Jesus, which is put on my clothes before I jump in because I'm going to spend all my time there. And so finally everyone gets there, and there's a charcoal fire on that Jesus is cooking on. And then Jesus and Peter spend this nice moment together after breakfast where Jesus asks him these questions that seem kind of weird. And in order to fully understand that, we actually have to go back. So this is the part where we're going to jump around a little bit. So go ahead and open up to John chapter 18, 3 chapters prior, and read 15 through 18, or you could even go all the way through 27. But go ahead and pause me now if you want to do that, because everything will make more sense. Okay, so in this moment, Peter has been, it's after Jesus had been arrested, and Peter is following after the people that have arrested Jesus. They're following Jesus, and he actually denies Jesus 3 times. And this was the same Peter who, right before that, was willing to cut someone's ear off to protect Jesus. And so it's weird that someone so on fire for Jesus that would risk his life to protect Jesus would then immediately deny Jesus 3 different times. That he's like, I don't even know that guy. Like, what are you talking about? And what's crazy about it, and why I think he responded in that way, is actually from 5 chapters earlier, in John 13. You don't have to go back, but in John 13, right after Jesus washes his disciples' feet and they have dinner and he tells everyone that someone's going to betray him, he also lets Peter know that he's like, hey, before we reach the morning, before the rooster crows, you're going to deny me, and you're going to do it at least 3 times before the rooster crows. And so when you go to this passage of John 18, you see that John even points out that the rooster crows, so that it brings together that Jesus knew what was going to happen and the actions were already foretold. He already let Peter know that he's going to deny him. And I actually think that it's that moment with Jesus where he says, listen, I know you want to go where I'm going, but realistically, you're just not there yet. Like, you're going to actually deny me 3 times. And I think that that's why Peter, and then this is my interpretation, I'm not saying this is truth, but I think that's why Peter reacts the way he does in the garden, is because he's like, well, Jesus told me I was going to deny him. I'm going to actually I'm going to defend him with this sword. And he cuts the guy's ear off, but Jesus, like, of course, mends the guy's ear. And I think that shows Peter that he wants to prove his love for Jesus so much that he acts so intensely towards people. But what's really important to note about Peter denying Jesus is that it actually happened. They mention it specifically, John does, and I think it's on purpose, that it happened near a charcoal fire. Because when we flash forward and go back to John 21, which is where we started, it says that when Peter got there, that Jesus had a charcoal fire going. And so Jesus asking Peter these questions in John 21, where he asks him these 3 questions about the sheep, it's around a charcoal fire. It's Jesus giving Peter a second chance, which is more than we ever deserve. And it's Jesus showing grace and forgiveness to Peter, where he's essentially reenacting these scenes where Peter had denied Jesus. And he says, he doesn't actually say this, but this is what it's saying, is that he's like, around these fires, you denied me. So I'm going to ask you these questions. He goes, do you love me more than these? And he says, yeah, of course. And he goes, okay, feed my lambs. And then he asks him again, do you love me? And he says, yeah, of course I love you. And he goes, tend my sheep. And he says, so you love me. Do you love me? And he goes, yeah, you know everything. You know that I love you. And he goes, okay, feed my sheep. He gives him the 3 chances that he had around the fire previously to redeem himself. And he gives him 3 chances to earn back. Well, not earn back, but gives him 3 chances to solidify that relationship and declare his love for Jesus again, and is forgiven. But something that's crucial is that imagery that Jesus uses. Jesus is referred to as the Good Shepherd, and he uses a lot of shepherd imagery. And one of those is in the 3 statements. He says, feed my lambs, tend my sheep, and then he says, feed my sheep. Now, lambs are babies, right? They're baby sheep. And so it's a progression. He's saying, Peter, feed my lambs, feed my children. And then it says, tend to the sheep. And so watch them grow, tend to them, make sure that they're going the right direction, take care of them. And then it says, feed my sheep. So he's like, after they've grown, continue to feed them. So it's an age range. He's like, feed the children, feed the adults, because Jesus gave Simon Peter the name Peter, or Petros, which is rock, because he wants to build the church on Peter. And so this is him saying, I love you, you love me, so let's build this church. He's like, feed my lambs, take care of the kids, raise this church up, feed the adults, make them from spiritually infants, spiritually babies to adults, and take care of my church because I'm not going to be here anymore. And it's this moment where Jesus allows Peter the chance to declare his love for Jesus again, that solidifies that moment for Peter, and solidifies that relationship. And I think it's just as much for Peter as anybody, because if Peter's anything like I think he is completely distraught at the idea that he could behave that way towards Jesus and that he would deny Jesus. And I'm sure it was eating him up inside, to the point to where he had to go fishing. He had to do something else to get his mind off everything because he felt so bad. And so that's why he jumped in the water. That's why he swam towards Jesus, because his heart was aching for the way that he behaved. And I've felt that way so many times, where I don't feel worthy of Jesus's love sometimes. And I know that you guys probably feel that way sometimes too. And sometimes it takes just diving headfirst and pursuing Jesus to feel whole again, and declaring your love for him. And I think that's really beautiful. So throughout this week, as you guys are doing your daily activities and spending time with family, and spending alone time, hopefully reading your Bibles and spending time with Jesus, just think about the love that he has for you. Because if his love is the same as it is for Peter, then he'll give you the opportunities to make up what you need, and he'll fulfill you in the ways that you need, like he did for Peter. I know that he has for me. So if you guys have any questions, feel free to comment on this video. You can email me. My email will be in the description. Just reach out with anything that you need. I'd love to help from afar. So I love you guys. I miss you terribly, and I can't wait to see you again. God bless.